Years after Misfit Garage vanished from TV, Tom Smith, one of the show's most loved mechanics, break the news on what led to the show's sudden end. What really happened behind the garage doors. The journey of Tom Smith. Before the bright studio lights and the roar of filming crews, Tom Smith was simply a gearhead with a wrench and a dream. He moved to Texas and began working at a performance shop called Driver's Edge, where he refined his hot rod skills and built a reputation as the detail-obsessed mechanic. At Driver's Edge, he learned to bring vintage cars back to life, learning how to polish panels, rebuild engines, and tune suspensions until every part was perfect. His love for classic cars helped define his style. Early in his career, he admired builds like a 1964 Ford Thunderbolt and a 1965 Shelby Cobra, machines he regarded as the ultimate builds. These dream cars drove him to work harder, stay longer, and chase craftsmanship where others accepted shortcuts. His attention to detail and his clear passion separated him from the pack. The break came when the Discovery Channel series Fast and Loud and its stars at Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas noticed his work. The show, created by Richard Rawlings, was built around finding classic and worn cars, restoring them, and selling them for profit. Tom's mixture of skill, humor, and personality made him a standout. He joined Gas Monkey's team and became visible on television, showing up on camera as well as under the hood. Within that environment, Tom's creative personality offered a contrast. Where Gas Monkey focused sharply on business, profit margins, schedules, and high-stakes deals, Tom brought a spark of creativity, of enjoyment in the work itself. He was less about numbers and more about craftsmanship. That difference sometimes worked for him and sometimes against him. In 2014, Tom's time at Gas Monkey came to an abrupt end. He and Jordan Butler were fired following a dispute over a photo of a Rolls-Royce, which marked a tipping point in deeper tensions between their approach and the shop's management style. The disagreement with the shop manager and the reaction from Richard Rawlings, as publicly reported, signaled that even fit and finish excellence can clash with business imperatives. For Tom, the firing was a shakeup. Instead of seeing it purely as a setback, he later considered it the best thing that ever happened to him. What followed was the spark of a new idea. After leaving Gas Monkey, Tom joined with Jordan Butler and other mechanics to create a new shop, Fired Up Garage, where his vision could take center stage. He turned his experience into opportunity, using timing, personality, and reputation to step into the spotlight, rather than fade out of view. The birth of Misfit Garage. After leaving Gas Monkey Garage, Tom Smith did not step away from the automotive world for long. Alongside Jordan, Butler, Thomas Weeks, and Scott McMillan, he began building something new, a shop that would prove creativity, teamwork, and heart could thrive outside of Richard Rawlings' empire. Together, they launched Fired Up Garage, which later became the setting for Discovery Channel's new series, Misfit Garage. Starting out, the group worked with little more than tools, borrowed space, and a strong belief in their skills. The name Fired Up was layered in meaning. It nodded to Tom's childhood dream of owning a shop by that name, and also reflected his determination after being fired. It symbolized a fresh start, not bitterness. Each member had experience, but lacked the resources of a big studio-backed business like Gas Monkey. What they did have was chemistry, humor, and a shared drive to succeed on their own terms. The early days were rough. Their workspace was smaller, their equipment limited, and they often faced fan skepticism. Viewers who loved Fast and Loud doubted whether Tom's new venture could survive. But Discovery Channel saw potential. Pilgrim Studios, the same company behind Fast and Loud, realized there was an appetite for an underdog story. Mechanics fighting to prove themselves after being dismissed. In 2014, Misfit Garage premiered, offering audiences a rawer, grittier look at car building. The show's first episodes introduced the personalities that powered Fired Up Garage. Tom's humor, Jordan's business savvy, and Thomas Weeks' technical skills created a mix that felt natural and authentic. Fans appreciated their rough-around-the-edges charm. Unlike Gas Monkey, where builds were polished and deals were corporate, Fired Up Garage felt human. Mistakes happened, arguments broke out, and the mechanics worked with limited budgets. That realness became its trademark. Misfit Garage's tone stood in direct contrast to its parent show. Gas Monkey was about speed, precision, and profit. Fired Up Garage was about pride, persistence, and proving everyone wrong. Their rivalry, both real and media-driven, quickly drew attention. Viewers were fascinated by the tension between the two shops, and social media turned their back and forth into a pop culture conversation. The feud may have helped ratings, but it also added pressure. Every build became a statement, a chance to show that creativity and collaboration mattered more than corporate control. Behind the cameras, life at Fired Up Garage wasn't easy. Unlike Gas Monkey, which had sponsorships and strong sales, the Misfit team faced financial challenges. Car restorations were expensive and slow to profit. The shop survived largely on the strength of television contracts and fan interest rather than vehicle sales. The members had to balance entertainment with actual automotive business, keeping the builds real enough to satisfy viewers while ensuring they could stay afloat financially. Still, the team's chemistry carried them. They rebuilt. Classics like the Pontiac GTO, Ford Mustang, and Chevy pickup, showcasing both their talent and passion. Fans responded to their transparency. They argued, struggled, and laughed on screen, showing the emotional side of shop life. The series offered something rawer than the usual shine of car TV. When Fired Up Garage adopted the initials FU, many viewers interpreted it as a dig at Richard Rawlings. Online chatter suggested it meant, "forget you," or worse. But for Tom Smith, the initials meant something entirely different: freedom unleashed. He saw it as a message of independence, a statement that passion and hard work could break free from television politics and business rivalry. That philosophy captured the spirit of Misfit Garage, proud, stubborn, and unfiltered. By the middle of its run, Misfit Garage had carved its own space in automotive entertainment. It never reached the massive ratings of Fast and Loud, but it built a dedicated following that admired its honesty and humor. The feud with Gas Monkey added drama, yet it was Tom's personality that kept fans loyal. He embodied the everyday mechanic's dream, to be seen, respected, and free to build without compromise. Tom Smith before the fame. Long before television cameras captured his humor and high-energy personality, Tom Smith was already a character shaped by curiosity, risk-taking, and creativity. Born in Ohio and raised in Georgia, he was the kind of child who never stopped asking questions. His mind worked like a machine that refused to idle. While most kids played outside without a care, Tom was inside taking apart radios, lawnmowers, and bicycles, determined to see how they worked. Putting them back together, however, was never guaranteed. That early fascination with mechanical parts set the foundation for his life's work as a master builder and problem solver. Growing up in a modest family, Tom's world was not filled with luxury or convenience. What he had instead was an endless imagination and a knack for mischief. His intelligence and quick wit made him stand out, even among older kids. Teachers noticed his sharp mind, but his restless energy often made him hard to contain. His curiosity was bigger than the classroom. It was this mix of brains, humor, and rebellion that would later define his personality in adulthood. The mechanic who could make you laugh while fixing your car faster than anyone else. One unforgettable story from his youth captures both his fearlessness and mischief. As a young boy, Tom decided to take his uncle's 1974 Pontiac Granville for a joyride. The car was big, loud, and beautiful, a dream machine for any teenage boy. But Tom's adventure ended quickly and dramatically when he accidentally crashed into a police car. The incident could have scared him straight, but instead it became part of his legend. That fearless energy, the willingness to take risks and learn the hard way, became a permanent part of who he was. At age 12, Tom's life took a new turn when he moved in with his grandmother. It was during those years that he began to develop a deeper sense of independence. His grandmother's house became both a refuge and a classroom for life. She was strict but loving, and her influence helped shape his humor and resilience. With little supervision and plenty of freedom, Tom learned to rely on himself. He used humor as a coping mechanism, a way to deal with life's ups and downs. This humor later became his trademark, both in the garage and on television. In high school, Tom's mix of intelligence and creativity began to stand out even more. He excelled at spelling bees and loved reading, showing that beneath the grease and jokes was a bright mind. He also had a gift for drawing, often sketching cars and machines from memory. While most saw him as the class clown, those who paid attention noticed how focused and precise he could be when working on something he cared about. His artistic side and mechanical skill would later merge, creating the unique blend of art and engineering that defined his builds on screen. Tom's passion for cars truly took shape in his teenage years when he began an apprenticeship under Carl Parsons, a respected mechanic in Ohio. Parsons taught him the discipline behind the craft, how precision mattered just as much as passion. Under this mentorship, Tom learned not just how to fix engines, but how to understand them. He discovered that every vehicle had a personality, and that a good mechanic could sense its rhythm the way a musician senses a beat. After his apprenticeship, Tom opened his first small shop in a tough neighborhood. There, he earned respect through hard work and integrity. While most people in the area followed trends, Tom refused to join the crowd. He famously preferred Ford vehicles when everyone around him swore by Chevy. That decision summed up his individuality: confident, fearless, and unwilling to bend for popularity. His shop became a local hangout, where stories, laughter, and the smell of oil filled the air. People came for repairs but stayed for the company. Over time, the qualities that made Tom special became clear: his quick humor, fearless independence, and deep passion for learning. He was not just a mechanic. He was a storyteller, artist, and entertainer. Long before cameras arrived, he had already mastered the art of turning hard work into something joyful. That mindset came alive in his most famous moments on television, where his passion for perfection collided with his sharp comedic style. Gears, grit, and the heart of a craftsman. Tom Smith's career was never just about cars. It was about passion, personality, and the perfectionist streak that ran through everything he touched. His most memorable moment, known among fans as the metric Bolt Rant, summed up who he was: a man who mixed comedy with craftsmanship. The Rant, which went viral among Fast and Loud viewers, showed Tom's exaggerated frustration over using metric bolts instead of standard American ones. It was funny, dramatic, and deeply symbolic. Beneath the laughter was a serious point: his love for traditional American engineering and his resistance to shortcuts that ignored craftsmanship. Tom's humor gave him a unique place in the car world. While other mechanics focused purely on the work, he turned the garage into a stage. His sarcasm, wild gestures, and colorful storytelling made even technical discussions entertaining. This ability to balance technical precision with lighthearted humor set him apart. Fans loved that he could teach you something about cars and still make you laugh until your sides hurt. Beyond television, Tom had another side: the performer. He spent years doing stand-up comedy, appearing at the Dallas Improv and the Manhattan Christie Comedy Club. On stage, he used his life in the garage as material. He turned everyday frustrations, from broken tools to stubborn engines, into hilarious performances that connected with audiences who knew the struggle of hard work. Comedy for him was not an escape from mechanics. It was another outlet for his creative energy. Tom's colleagues often said his work ethic was unmatched. Even when cameras stopped rolling, he was the first to lend a hand to younger mechanics, explaining techniques and encouraging them to think creatively. He believed in learning by doing, in making mistakes, and in finding beauty in imperfection. That mentorship spirit made him beloved behind the scenes, long after the fame faded. His creativity extended far beyond engines and tools. Tom was also an artist who created massive Sharpie drawings, detailed sketches filled with movement and emotion. The same imagination that once tore apart radios as a child now flowed through ink and paper. His art reflected his personality, bold, unfiltered, and deeply human. But behind every joke and every build was a man whose laughter sometimes hid real struggles. As fame grew and the spotlight brightened, the pressures of television and personal life began to test Tom's resilience, revealing the man behind the laughter in a whole new way. The untold end of Misfit Garage. The success of Misfit Garage began as a victory for underdogs, but behind the scenes, it was a complicated web of control, exhaustion, and quiet disappointment. While the show presented itself as a rebellion against Gas Monkey Garage, the truth was far more tangled. Richard Rawlings, the man at the center of Fast and Loud, still had a firm hold on the business side of Misfit Garage. Despite public appearances of rivalry, Rawlings owned the building used by the fired-up garage crew and also remained an executive producer through his partnership with Discovery and Pilgrim Studios. This meant that even as Tom Smith and his team worked to present Misfit Garage as their independent, comeback story, they were still operating within Rawlings's reach. The supposed competition that fans saw on screen, the David versus Goliath narrative between Gas Monkey Garage and Misfit Garage, was, to a large extent, a creative setup designed to keep audiences invested. While it worked brilliantly at first, the truth was that the power dynamics never truly shifted. The Misfit Garage team were stars of their own show, but not the owners of their destiny. By the time the show hit its stride in its second season, internal tensions had already begun to show. Tom Smith, Jordan Butler, Scott McMillan, and Thomas Weeks shared genuine friendship. But running a car shop under television pressure proved challenging. Every project had deadlines set not by clients, but by producers. Cars had to be built faster than normal, and every repair had to be camera-ready. For mechanics who valued craftsmanship over spectacle, the pressure took a toll. Jordan Butler, one of the co-founders, was among the first to step back. Reports suggested that creative differences and stress over the show's direction caused friction within the team. Soon after, Scott McMillan followed a similar path, frustrated by long filming hours and low financial returns. Despite the popularity of the show, the profits from each car were limited. The crew's main income came not from their builds, but from television contracts and sponsorships. Once ratings began to fall, the strain became more visible. By 2018, Misfit Garage had lost much of its early momentum. Viewers began to sense a lack of energy and direction. Discovery Channel stopped heavily promoting new episodes, and the renewal updates that fans waited for each season grew less frequent. Production slowed, and by 2020, the show quietly disappeared from schedules. There was no official statement, no finale, and no farewell episode, just silence. Financially, the show faced growing problems. Restoring classic cars is expensive, especially when each build is done for entertainment value rather than long-term resale. Labor costs, parts, and deadlines all added pressure. The show's popularity kept it afloat for several years, But once the viewership began to slide, Discovery and Pilgrim Studios shifted their focus to new projects. Tom and his crew were left with the heavy costs of maintaining a business that was never fully theirs. Critics also began to question the show's direction. Some fans accused Misfit Garage of losing touch with the authenticity that once made it special. The 1957 Chevy Gasser episode, in particular, sparked backlash from classic car enthusiasts who felt that the rebuilds had sacrificed historical accuracy for drama. The criticism hurt Tom personally, as he always took pride in respecting the history of every vehicle he touched. Away from the cameras, Tom was struggling with burnout, balancing his comedic side with the demands of television, and real car work became emotionally draining. His humor never disappeared, but the spark that once drove him was dimming. Creative control was limited, and the once friendly competition with Gas Monkey Garage no longer felt genuine. What began as a passionate project to prove independence had turned into another network-controlled production. By 2019, the dream of Misfit Garage had quietly ended. There was no public announcement from Discovery Channel, no social media farewell from producers, just a slow fade into television history. For fans, the silence felt unfair. For Tom and his crew, it was a painful but freeing end. The men who once shouted and laughed in the garage had gone their separate ways, some returning to private restoration work, others moving on to new ventures. After the cameras stopped rolling, Tom Smith found himself back where he started, surrounded by tools, laughter, and loyal fans. Yet this time, he was older, wiser, and ready to rebuild his life on his own terms. Tom Smith's redemption and renewal. When Misfit Garage ended quietly in 2018, many assumed that Tom Smith had also faded from public life. Yet in truth, that was when his real second act began. Away from the cameras, without producers or scripted rivalries, Tom returned to what he loved most: fixing engines, making people laugh, and helping others. His story after television became one of quiet resilience, creativity, and rediscovered joy. Following the show's end, Tom stayed connected to his loyal fan base through Facebook and local community pages. His posts reflected the same blend of humor and authenticity that had made him a fan favorite on television. Instead of big garage announcements, he began sharing photos of smaller personal projects, classic trucks, vintage Mustangs, and motorcycles that came through his workshop. He often joked about life's ups and downs, keeping his online presence light and relatable. Fans appreciated that he never tried to reinvent himself as something he wasn't. He remained the same Tom, funny, grounded, and fiercely proud of his craft. During the COVID-19 pandemic, when most of the world shut down, Tom rediscovered another side of himself, his love for stand-up comedy. Before his television fame, he had performed in comedy clubs in Dallas and Manhattan, where his natural timing and storytelling made audiences laugh. With clubs closed and gatherings banned, Tom adapted by doing virtual shows from his home garage. Using video platforms, he told jokes about mechanics, life, and his experiences in television. His humor became a source of comfort for fans who were stuck at home during lockdown. The shows were casual, unscripted, and deeply human, a perfect reflection of who Tom really was. But comedy and cars weren't the only things that defined his post-show life. Around 2021, Tom became active in animal rescue and welfare. Living in Texas, where stray animals are common, he started volunteering to transport abandoned dogs to shelters and foster homes. His social media feed filled with pictures of dogs he had rescued, cleaned up, and delivered to loving families. This work became one of his quiet passions, a way of giving back and staying grounded after years in front of the spotlight. Despite the challenges that came with leaving television, including financial strain and career uncertainty, Tom maintained a sense of humor and optimism. He faced the realities of running a small business, especially after the pandemic slowed down the auto industry. But instead of letting setbacks discourage him, he found purpose in rebuilding his life piece by piece. He often described the process as tuning an old engine, slow, patient, but worth every effort once it runs smoothly again. Tom also began mentoring younger mechanics who looked up to him from Misfit Garage. He used his experience to teach them about precision, patience, and creativity. He was known for encouraging originality, reminding aspiring builders that the best mechanics think like artists, not just technicians. Through small workshops and community car events, he passed on both his knowledge and his trademark humor, showing that mentorship could be as fulfilling as fame. By 2023, whispers began to circulate online about a new project involving Tom. Some fan pages hinted that he was in early discussions for a fresh television series, focusing on auto modification and restoration with a more personal touch. Though details remained unconfirmed, Tom himself hinted at a new kind of show that would combine cars, comedy, and community stories, a mix of everything that made him unique. Whether or not the project comes to fruition, it symbolized a sense of renewal in his career and spirit. Throughout this period, Tom's reflections on fame and failure grew more thoughtful. He often expressed gratitude for the opportunities that Fast and Loud and Misfit Garage gave him, but admitted that his true sense of happiness came after the cameras turned off. The structured chaos of television had its rewards, but the freedom to work at his own pace, help others, and enjoy life without scripted drama meant more. He no longer chased fame. Instead, he embraced fulfillment.